All right, and welcome back to another episode of Rooster and the Villain. I am also joined by Jake Kenicky. I don't know if I ever pronounced your last name. Is that correct? Kenicky, or is it
Kennick,
Kenicky?
Kennicky.
Okay, okay. I don't
I
know
actually,
why I don't know why I just felt that out, but like, I always just call you Jake or Yake, one or the other. Uh, I wanted to make sure I got it right because really, I could say that I'm welcoming in our loyal and faithful audience, but really, Jake's mom, thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Um, it's been a jam packed week full of soccer, which is fantastic for us. You know, it's we're coming up to the dreaded international break coming up here again, so never fun for those sort of breaks. But Jake, how you doing, bud?
doing all right. It was another enjoyable in air quotes fall day in El Paso. 90 degrees out still. Uh, and then pretty much a lot of fun stuff to watch. But as far as my fandoms, it's been kind of a crap week. We can get into more of that later, but I guess we can launch right into the Brighton coverage. I'm sure everyone has seen this. The Premier League won't shut up about it.
Well, before you touch on it, I do want to say that I 100% feel for you, and we might be sitting here next week, having like a similar conversation, but from my point of view, because I think we touched on it last time, right? But I understand your immediate and utter hatred for Chelsea. I mean, most people hate Chelsea, but as a Brighton fan, it's a special type of hate. Um, and United's got Villa on the weekend, and they're also my special kind of hate. So I imagine it makes for a tough week when you have the weekend you guys had.
Yeah, it was definitely rough. And it's always annoying, like when you lose, but you lose in sort of a historic sort of way, and you have to just sit there and watch all the social media accounts you follow just go on and on and on about the game, and it's like, what about me? You guys not care about me?
Right, I
But
hear you.
so yeah, 4-2 Chelsea defeats Brighton in London. Cole Palmer sets a Premier League record with 4 goals in the first half. Just an absolute insanity. And as you know, as I was saying in the pre-show, the wife and I had gone out and tied one on, and I rarely drink now. So not only was it a bummer, I was also hungover watching it. So the game started off pretty wild. Reuter got his first goal as a member of Brighton and Hove Albion. Just a crazy bang bang play. Cucurella gets knocked over. Essentially, Sanchez, who if he wouldn't have come off his line, would have just saved it easily. But instead, it was just bang bang play. Sanchez tries to play it out. Reuter runs into Cucurella, bowls him over. Sanchez takes out his own guy, and the ball floats in on a header for a goal. So feeling pretty good at that point, and then just everything went to shit. Brighton's high line. A lot of people have made it out. Have made a big deal out of it. A lot of people talking about Herzler as maybe being a boy genius or whatever. Um, it definitely did not work today, and I think it has a lot to do with Jan Paul Van Hecke not being there, but I also don't think there's a lot of center backs in the world that would have done well, I think, in that setup today or on Saturday. Um, yeah, Cole Palmer goals in the 21st minute. They get a penalty in the 28th minute. He scores in the 31st minute and scores in the 41st minute. And honestly, he probably could have had 6 to 7 goals in that first half. We got extremely lucky on some of his shots. Some were called back. There was a couple where he took an ill-advised shot and Nicholas Jackson was ready for a tap in. 4-2 is brutal for me, but it also could have been so much worse. Um, Lone bright spots for me. Baleba obviously continues to impress. Got another goal. He had a goal and an assist on this one. Matoma was looking good. Reuter's kind of proven that he can play in this squad. Wiefer came back in the lineup again, did well. Hinchelwood, not his best game.
Can, can I interject? I don't want to kill your momentum here, but I understand like some of the tactical flexibility that Hinchelwood offers. And maybe you'll get into this but like, do you feel like maybe he might have been out of position for this particular game? That maybe somewhere like, I don't know, right back might have been a stronger spot for him in this particular setup.
Yeah, I think Kadioglu, like obviously the first initial uh idea for him is to play as a fullback, but I think he's proven over the course of his career that he plays central midfield fine. Like if you want him, like the Herzler loves his midfielders to attack, so putting him there wouldn't have been a bad idea. I that's actually not a bad point. I probably would have preferred Hinchelwood at right back and moved Kadioglu up. I mean, it's not like these guys are playing static positions anyways in this thing. Like people were just all over the place, and like as soon as the ball would turn over, I would like my butthole would clench. Like I was pulling the couch up with me. And it was horrifying. Like it would just be ball would turn over and an outlet pass out to the wing. Maduke, that guy, good Lord. They would just go out to him and then it would hit Palmer and a goal would be scored. And it was horrifying. And he settled them down. Hertzler settled them down in the second half. It was definitely a better second half, but just not a lot of scoring opportunities for us at all. Some of the stats, obviously we had more possession, but 4.16 xG for Chelsea, which is nuts. They completed about a little over half of the passes that we did because all their passes were just direct out to the wing and they were gone. They missed 5 big chances and had 7 big chances with 7 shots on target from those big chances. So every time they were getting there, they were pretty much putting the ball on Verbruggen and making him work. I think obviously the biggest bone of contention that a lot of fans had with the game was obviously Adam Webster's performance. As I said in the group chat, that was one of the depressed texts I sent you guys was, I don't think Adam Webster is a Premier League center back. Guy's been great for the club, but he's just obviously not on the level anymore. But the thing that made me the most bummed out was found out later on in the weekend that he deleted his social media after abuse by Brighton fans. And it just blows my mind. I'm obviously not a long-standing fan. I've followed them since, the championship season where they qualified and got promoted. I don't take any of this for granted. Like I know who we are, what we are, and stuff like that. And it's just like people, I don't know if it's newer fans. I don't think it would be the older fans because I'm friends with a lot of the older fans on there and they were all mad about this. But I mean, especially like the older fans, like you know where this club's come from. Like, why are you going to do this to somebody? It doesn't matter. You get a little taste of success, a 6th place finish, and we play. We get into the knockouts of Europa, and everyone acts like we should be fucking dominating from this point forward. And it's not the case. Like, it's going to be pain in that position. If Van Hecke gets injured, it's just not going to be easy. I don't think Igor is going to do any better next week because Jan-Paul Van Hecke is still going to be out. I believe he has a torn groin. He's not coming back until after the international break. But my point being is don't abuse the players. Don't abuse the players. You can say all day like, oh, he's not the level or oh, he sucks, but like to fucking DM the guy and tell him he's a piece of shit and all this stuff, like how depressed you have to be. It's just pathetic in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, As somebody that doesn't have social media, I don't know what position I would be in if I was a professional athlete. I think some of the guys, and maybe less case for like Webster, right? Maybe he's just like, the rest of us is trying to like post pictures of his kid or whatever. But like, I know some of those guys have to have social media because it's a market thing, right? Like where you got to be able to sell yourself. But yeah, I mean the internet sucks for that. We talked about that last week, right? The internet's fucking mean. And or actually it was 2 weeks ago. Mike was here because we were talking about that. The internet's mean, man. Like it, and I think that I understand why he would delete it out of frustration, but also to your point, I think when stuff like this happens, it's always the loud minority ruining it for everybody else. I would argue like to your point, Adam Webster did not play that well, and I think that he could still be a Premier League defender. It's just not in this team, right? Like the way this team has evolved the last couple of years with some of these coaches, some of the things that they're asking him to do. It's just not his strengths. Like there are other clubs that he could definitely still walk into and give meaningful minutes, but it's just not his comfort zone for some of the stuff, especially how spread out the defense at Brighton can get sometimes. You're on an island, right? So, I wish him the best. I hope that he's able to move past this, and he's been doing this for a while, So, um, but yeah, it's unfortunate when stuff like this happens.
Yeah, it's just you're absolutely right on that. Like he's not a good passer of the ball, and obviously that's becoming a major demand of center backs in this quote unquote utter woke bullshit that
Hmm.
football has become. So yeah, like you could just see the difference too. Like when Van Hecke is in, like our attack builds from the back. So like you have to have these center backs that can either ping long balls or they can play keep away with control. And Webster just can't do that. Um, I don't remember if it was the first open play goal from Palmer or the second open play goal. It was a Webster pass that did it, just intercepted, and they went. And yeah,
I,
I personally like the guy. Have an autographed card by him. Um, he's been great for us, but yeah, like the way that obviously Tony Bloom is hiring coaches to play, it's just not going to work for him anymore here.
for sure. I did want to ask, obviously Cole Palmer had a day. Can't really fault the penalty. And the free kick goal was a worldie.
Yeah,
Um, even the first goal, I'll give like a little bit of grace to Verbruggen because it's, what are you gonna do? It's like center of the box, 12 yards out. But that last one he let in, I mean, I'm not trying to nitpick, but it should have been saved. Like you can't
yeah,
get beat near post like that. It's again nitpicking, but all those goals happening in the first half, especially right after Baleba had pulled one back to make it 3-2. Um, it just felt like a air got let out of the balloon on that one after that happened. And you saw it in the second half, right? Like that game was the first half. They even joked about it on the Premier League highlights. They said, "And then we go to Chelsea and Brighton, and literally every highlight for this game is in the first half. They didn't
yeah.
show a single highlight from the second half." So, um, but yeah, Cole Palmer absolutely blew a chance in the second half, right in the start of the second half, where I can't remember who gave it up, but Caicedo took it right off their foot and like kind of slid kick to Palmer, who was wide open by himself and inexplicably put it wide. I mean, it was on his right foot, and maybe that's the secret sauce. Let him be on his right foot. Um, but I wasn't. I guess in general, I wasn't super impressed with Verbruggen, and I still think he's the better of the two goalies between him and Steele, but um, I did want to at least notate that last one, really kind of hurt you guys momentum wise right before the half, blah blah blah. So
Yeah, I think that was just at that point it was shell shock for him. I just that just has to be so fucking confusing as a player. Like I've gotten boat raced on Sundays before, and it's just fucking depressing.
hmm, for
Yeah,
sure, it feels like you're like. I mean, every time you turn around, they're spinning a goal, right? Like
yeah,
just sitting there doing laps like this. Where you're like, hey, it's a goal. Hey, it's a kickoff. hey, it's a goal. Hey, it's kickoff.
Yeah.
Just spinning and watching. Yeah, that can be tough for sure. But
But
um, yeah,
oh, real quick, the point I wanted to get to, and the title of this podcast, I've already named it. Not just Brighton, but every team in the Premier League and in Europe, since they're going to be playing there as well. Like, Cole Palmer must be stopped. This absolute doofus looking dude is somehow the best player in the world right now. Like, it's pure
it's
insanity. There's nothing in his head but
I
like the gas that comes out of a potato chip bag.
yeah, and he is playing well. I'm not taking anything away from him, but
Yeah,
like it sometimes I'm not even sure if he's the best player on his team. Like Madueke has been fantastic
yeah,
for them, and Cole Palmer wasn't exactly lighting it up until Jadon Sancho got into the lineup with Chelsea. So I think he's reaping the benefits of playing with some of these guys that are starting to finally play cohesive soccer. After I mean, for whatever consistency is at Chelsea these days,
yeah.
um, it makes a difference. He's very talented, but he definitely benefits um, on that team for sure. For them, anyways.
We
I mean, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about him like taking over the league, but yeah, he is there. I don't think there's anything going on upstairs. It's
There's
a
not.
little bit Jack Grealish, where like, hey, you're super talented and like and fun to watch, but like if I asked you like questions in an interview, the whole famous line about uh Jack Grealish, someone references a dictionary and he's like, what? It's a dictionary.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't even know. So
But I mean, that's the thing is like I was gonna bring that up next is at least at least Grealish has like charisma. Like Palmer just looks like he's like stuck on autopilot. And the celebration's annoying too. But it's just
plus,
like
because you
he's
don't
got
like him, that's because you don't like him.
yeah, but he's got the goofy haircut. He's got the goofy like the mega British face. Like he's got like British face syndrome, but like to a super
Mhm.
extent. But
For
yeah,
sure.
just he's got to be stopped. Someone has to stop him.
I'm not worried about it. Everyone's like, oh, Chelsea's back, blah blah blah. Like, we'll see. Like, they have to do it consistently. Um, and I think that you're definitely talking about them pushing for European spots this year, just on the form they're on. But also I see lots of frailties in that team too. So it only takes like a few bad games, especially with a team with, you know, no veteran leadership now, before, they could potentially unravel. So, we can always hope. We can always
Yeah.
hope for sure. All right. Um, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about your loss to Chelsea.
Nah,
It's
it's
tough.
okay. I mean, they can if they need veteran leadership, they can take the cast off of Ben Chilwell, like the full body cast that he's been in for the past couple years.
He's yeah, I think he's frozen out. He's with the U21s.
Ugh.
So he's probably gone in January if they can find a deal for him. But at some point, some of these players are going to start to look at the treatment and the transfer policy at Chelsea, and like at what level is, and even to this point, like even some of these deals they're signing now aren't exactly super lucrative deals. They're just like long term. It's like locked in, blah blah blah. Um, I feel like some players are gonna be like, I'm not interested in going to Chelsea. I don't want to negotiate with them. I don't want to be part of that. I see how they've treated players. It will happen at some point. If they
Yeah.
continue this, but
I mean,
um,
João Felix didn't even play on Saturday,
yeah, but
which is just
also
wild.
he's. I'm pretty sure he is he is Coutinho, like for me, which is ironic. So I'm wearing a Coutinho jersey, right? Like where um there was like incredible talent there, and even with Coutinho, like if you watched like some of his last few games with Villa, you could see some talent, but it's just like it's not put together consistently. It's always individual, and unless he's willing to change that, he's going to slowly slide out. I'm not worried about him being the person that takes Chelsea to the next level. They have lots of other potential stars on that team that can do that. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, let's transition to Sunday then. After the way the weekend went, Manchester City tying, coming into Sunday, Liverpool did win. Right, they went to the top of the table, but Villa had an opportunity with a win to go joint top of the table, and I wasn't looking forward to the game. For a couple reasons. I think Ipswich is a fun team. I don't know, like, I mean, I think that they could be built to stay up. I think I predicted them to stay up, especially now you watch some of these teams falter. But at the same time, they're a team that on form we should be beating even at Ipswich. And it felt a little bit to me like last December when Villa had an opportunity with a win to go top of the table and they tied Sheffield United, coming off of beating Arsenal and Man City back to back. And secretly, on top of that, like they had a chance to go joint top of the table, but they still haven't beaten anybody in the Premier League. The only decent team they've played in the Premier League so far has been Arsenal, and Arsenal pretty handily beat them at Villa Park. So they go into Ipswich, they go down, right? And Liam Delap is another Man City cast off. We're talking about Cole Palmer. Liam Delap could be, the next version of that. Gets a nice early goal. Morgan Rogers gets a goal finally. It had been coming, but good goal for him. And then Watkins gets one, 2.5 time. Great. All right, let's see this out. They're not really able to, they're Ipswich has got good consistent pressure. The Villa looks frail at the back, and Delap actually, really kind of bullied Diego Carlos, not in a physical way because no one bullies Diego Carlos physically, but like just tortured him with pace and movement. Led to the second goal for them in the 72nd minute, and we're not able to get any magic to get one. So Tractor Boys take a point off of us. Or 2 points off of us, so we get a tie, 1 point. Leaves us in 5th place in the Premier League. Not a great showing, and honestly, we're in 5th place. I'm not crying or anything like that, but I do have some concerns about the form. But we're getting some guys back healthy, even as we're getting some guys injured. It'll be interesting to see, this upcoming Sunday. We have United. And I'm hoping, just because of the way United played against Spurs, and hats off to Spurs, by the way. Maiko's not here with us today, but they boat raced United 3-0. And the wheels it look like they're coming off it. It sort of leads me into midweek, right? Man United is in Europa League. They have Porto, which is not an easy game. And if Porto is able to take a little bit of skin off of them coming into the weekend, Villa has a very real opportunity to, finally put the nail in the coffin on Eric Ten Hag's tenure at United if things go that way. But I'm nervous about playing United. They beat us twice last year. And I'll come back to that in a little bit because I do want to talk a little bit more about Ten Hag and where United's at. But I'd mentioned Europe midweek. Obviously today sorry, go ahead.
Just real quick, I want to say, as a fan of a club that also drew with Ipswich, I think McKenna is a really, really good coach.
100%.
And I think he's helping to build a team that if they survive this year, I think they're set up to be one of those mid-table fucking pain in the ass clubs that you got to go play away. He's going to be that he's making something into like a team that's going to be in the Premier League for a while, and they're going to be just super annoying to play.
Yeah, it reminds me of a lot of, just a really, really smart tactical acumen. It reminds me a lot of like Thomas Frank with Brentford. They came up and they are just not fun to play against. They will constantly push you and harry you. And I think that McKenna can definitely build that. In Ipswich, they spent quite a bit of money. So they're not, they definitely want to be here and be part of this. But I like I said, I picked them to stay up, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that's a totally fair assessment, and that's why he was rumored for a lot of different clubs during the off season. But We'll see. I mean, we'll see what he can build, and if they do have a good season, they stay up. Like it's going to be the constant. Like, okay, like is McKenna gonna stay?
Yeah.
Are like some of these players like if the lap, continues to be good. Omari Hutchinson, another Chelsea cast off. If he plays good, are you gonna be able to hold on to him? There's guys like that, like that are interesting. But we'll have to see how that goes. All right, so spinning back, like I said, today Villa played, just a little Champions League game. First, first time hosting a champion or I guess European Championship as it was in the '80s, but the last time um, we hosted was 1982, um, and our lone European title. I don't think it's on stars on here, but yeah, there is. Yeah, right there. The lone European title was actually a 1-0 win against Bayern Munich, and what a day to repeat that score line. It was exciting. I didn't have a lot of big expectations. Bayern isn't what they were 2-3 years ago, but they're still incredibly talented. They can attack you from so many different angles. Harry Kane is, I think he's got like 10 goals in 7 games for Bayern, like scoring at will. Um, but we got to like 10 minutes. I was like, all right, the first 10 minutes was a little shaky. We looked like, Villa Park was rocking, by the way. It was so loud. And I think the players kind of felt a little bit of that pressure, but once they had settled in and sort of settled down, they got a foothold in the game. You saw them start to terrorize um, the center backs.
Kim.
Yes, Kim and Upamecano.
Yeah.
Sort of terrorize them. Ali was running those channels, making those runs, and it made it tough on them. We got some fun opportunities. We actually had what we thought was a goal early on from Pau Torres, just a little poke in after some mess in the box, but Ramsey ended up being offsides. Um, yeah, it was an excellent first half. Go 0-0 halftime, all sorts of belief, right? And then we come the second half, start to make some subs. You see, I think it was in the 60th minute, Barkley came on for Onana, and Matson came on for Leon Bailey, who had actually subbed on in the 27th minute for Jacob Ramsey, who went off with looked like a groin injury. Hopefully, nothing too serious, but he went off. Bailey came on. I don't think Bailey had planned on playing this game. He's still fighting with an injury, and you saw it during the game. He worked hard, but there was no burst. He couldn't. It wasn't his like he was making his cuts, but he couldn't cut and go. And so he did the work until the 60th minute. Matson came on, actually played left wing, so helps a little bit defensively. But that moved Philogene from the left to the right. And I do want to highlight Jaden real quick because it's only his first start for Villa since coming back. He's had some injuries. He had a knock, so he'd been kind of out of the team the last couple weeks. But he did such an incredible job defensively, and he was industrious, and he was chasing and harrying players. I know what his offensive capabilities are. He is talented, but against a team like Bayern, I think for most of the game he's chasing down Nabry on that side. Putting in the work, helping Konza with the speed on that outside. Tip of the cap to him. He had a fantastic game. But we make those subs. Start to see the game's getting a little stretched out. Bayern's still dominating possession, but we're starting to push some opportunities. And then obviously the biggest chaos merchant since Mario Balotelli comes on, the super subs of all super subs comes on, and it was something. It was innocuous as it was like a free kick. Martinez went up and caught it, and kind of people are sort of fizzing out, and Torres just sort of sneaks out to the left, and just sort of tosses one over to him. Torres looks up, takes like 2 touches, and hits just like a perfectly weighted pass up through the channel, again, where Ali had been terrorizing the defenders. Duran makes that run. He's 30 yards out and realizes that, Neuer, who is very famous as a sweeper keeper, right? Like he's very much a modern goalkeeper. He's been playing with his feet forever, but so he always plays up high. he kind of half came for a second, realized he wasn't going to get it, and started to backpedal. But by that point, Duran, being willing to shoot from fucking anywhere, just turns and shoots from 30 yards out and buries it, and it was gorgeous. And like they said after the game, they talked with Unai about it, and he said it was something that they had talked about at halftime. Like it was something that they had identified, especially because they were getting those good over the top balls, those channel runs to look for the quick shot, just because like pick your head up, see where Neuer is. So that was very much something they talked about with Duran. But for him to still have the audacity to hit it, unbelievable. Crowd goes wild. Hold him off till the end. Harry Kane actually had an incredible header. I think in like the third minute of stoppage time that Martinez made a great save on. He had a couple of really good saves. I think it was like the 85th minute or something like that. He had a great one-on-one save with Gnabry on a little slotted ball at the top of the box. But a shutout win at Villa. We're in 2-0. We won 2 of our 8 games already. It's awesome. Emery even said, we're eyeballing, we're focused on trying to get into those top 8. You don't want to play in the playoff round, which is great. That's less games for us, that sort of thing. I don't know if that's still feasible or not, but the way they're playing is outstanding. If you really look at the rest of our games, we have lots of tough opponents in Europe, makes fools out of everybody. The only one I'm super nervous about still is Juventus, just because of their pedigree and the talent they have. But they also have to come to Villa Park, so it'll be interesting to see. But great night. I'm couldn't be more pleased. Spoiler alert: it may or may not make an appearance on my top 5 coming up here later. But anyway,
Juve and Leipzig will be tough, especially Leipzig away.
Leipzig away is, I think, going to be tougher than Juventus at home, and that's not taking anything lightly. Juventus is incredibly talented, but yeah, Leipzig away, makes me nervous. Anytime you got to travel into continental Europe, it's danger Will Robinson. But yeah, man, I'm just happy to be here. It was a good day. It took the bad taste of that Ipswich tie out of my mouth a little bit, and hopefully, like I said, Ramsey's injury is not too serious, and we get ready for this week or this game that I mentioned on Sunday with United. But speaking of United, you and I had kind of talked a little bit offline. How do you feel about some of the rumors or the way United has performed? I think the last 3 games they lost 0-3 to Liverpool, then they tied FC Twente, which was sweet, just because right before that game, Ten Hag said, you don't want to hurt the people that you love, because he had came up through Twente and then they tied them, and then just to get absolutely pummeled by Spurs at home. What are your feelings and thoughts about Ten Hag and where United's at right now?
I think if you just needed one play to sum up Ten Hag's managing ability, it's Van de Ven, a center back, going coast to coast for an assist, like passing it pretty much like, I understand in that situation, like I've played small amount of goalkeeper. My reaction is shit, but I would think that a Premier League goalkeeper, that ball looked like it passed, like if Onana would have leaned over to touch his toes, he could have snagged that ball off the ground, kind of thing. And the whole team just got dribbled through. Onana made another mistake and the ball goes in. And it's just I never really thought about it until today, which is why I kind of brought up the subject. Like Ruud van Nistelrooy being hired, like I'm realizing now that like that's the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signing or like appointment or whatever, where they have like a club legend that's going to sit behind a pretty much a dead in the water manager, and he's going to take over mid-season. And it could be sooner than that. I mean, shoot, if they lose the next 2 matches, which I do believe you guys will beat them. And then, I mean, with FC Porto, like they're a good club. And I mean, they're losing or they're drawing with Twente. So it could be coming very, very soon for Ten Hag. And he's kind of in panic mode. You can tell in his press conferences, he gets pissy or says, I've won trophies and this and that. But it's like, the success. I mean, I guess I got to ask you because you were a fan at one point, but like it seems like the success for Manchester United, like the thing that was like when I was a kid, like the glory was they were in Europe every year. They were challenging for the league every year. Like
Mhm.
the FA Cup was a good thing when it came in a treble.
Mhm. I think the FA Cup is super valuable, and like it's the one he has way more of a leg to stand on with that trophy than the Carabao Cup, and it's not a slight to the Carabao Cup. It's just not the same. The Carabao is something you always include in the double in the treble or the Man City quadruple attempt, if you will. Um, but it's not it's not acceptable for United, as a whole, but in a vacuum, it's not acceptable for a team that spent a $500 million on player transfers since he came in. This isn't like, it's no longer you being able to say that, hey, I'm still dealing with the players from the previous regime, like, which is also a bullshit excuse. Good managers are gonna coach up to the quality or the players they have in the locker room. But those are your players. Like, you bought them. And one of them, the club record signing, can't even make the field right now.
Yeah,
Um, I think that the biggest indictment I would say of Ten Hag, and the way he talks is it's always about what he's done, and that he said that we are unified. But like when he says we're unified, he never says me and the players are unified. He always says I'm unified with the leadership and the ownership at Man United, which is literally just him saying, I have the backing of the club, but he clearly doesn't have the backing of the players, right? Which is probably more important at this juncture than the backing from the club. Because
yeah,
if the players don't believe in you, they don't buy into what you're trying to sell, they're not going to execute it, and you're seeing some of those performances. That's where the inconsistency comes from more than anything else for him is they just don't have the buy-in. And I think I think it's hard at United. It was so cancerous for so long there. There's still players like that have been there for a long time. Rashford's been there for a long time, and he clearly has other things going on, but that wasn't always the case with him. But you see, like, there's just it's like an entitlement or just a lack of want to, lack of wanting to be coached or lack of wanting to get better. They're all sitting on incredibly fat salaries, and um, I you're right. If they, like I said, I think if they tie and lose whatever combination of that over the next two games going into the international break, yeah, it makes sense. And Ruud van Nistelrooy I would say he's even more than Solskjaer, just because it was only one season, but I think he either won a title or finished really high with PSV in the Eredivisie, and at that point Solskjaer had coached Mold, and that's um, not an indictment. I'm sure I'm slaughtering that Molde or whatever it is,
yeah.
but a Norwegian club, right? Like, he didn't have a ton of really high level coaching experience. So Van Nistelrooy can be a stopgap, but you're probably talking about a player like or a coach like Thomas Tuchel or Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate, Jesus Christ, Gareth Southgate coming
Graham
in.
Graham
Yeah.
Potter.
No, I don't think so.
the
No.
it's just there's so many things that you can, like you're saying, you could point to, like the transfers, like not just the money that's spent, but like the appearance on the outside that he's trying to rebuild his Ajax club from back in the day. And then
Yeah.
the one of the main things that blows my mind about that club is Bruno Fernandes being the captain. In no world should that guy be a captain. Like it's number one, it's too much responsibility for him. Like you look at the people in the past who have worn that armband and stuff, especially in the
Mhm.
Ferguson years. It's it's just insane that a player like that, like for all his talent, he is a humongous shithouse. It's kind of funny to see him get that red. I know it wasn't a red, but for
Mhm.
all the times that he's drawn bullshit out, drawn fouls off people that have gotten people carded and stuff like that, he absolutely
Right.
deserves it just for that. But Maguire was a decent captain for them, in my opinion. He just like
Yeah.
lost. lost it. He got
Yeah.
space jammed or whatever, Monstarred.
He did. I think he like and British fans are always harder on British players than they are on anybody else. But he seemed like a better leader. But like I think like his confidence just absolutely got like wrecked, and he's never been quite the same, except for the guy who I couldn't pronounce of all the easy names, Southgate.
Mhm.
Southgate absolutely loved him, even through all of the hard times he's been on. When Harry Maguire was healthy, he started for England at center back. So, yeah, something to watch if that comes in. I did want to give one more little note before we move on here,
Mhm.
just for context, and part of the reason that like I'm a little nervous about Sunday. In 58 meetings in the Premier League era between Aston Villa and Man United, Aston Villa's won five,
Oh shit.
five games, um, 13 draws and 40 wins for United. So clearly, obviously, there's a lot of United early on wins in there. But I mean, like I said, even in some of our best years recently, including last year, two of our losses were to Man United. So I am nervous about playing them until we beat them. So we'll have to see. But hopefully we put Eric into a nice vacation somewhere because he looks like he could use a rest
Oh yeah, he's stressed.
for sure. All right. Let's move on. Do you want to do top fives right now, or did you want to talk about uh did you want to mention anything? I'm not the right person because I'm mentally checked out. Is there anything you want to quickly mention about Pochettino's first selection for the upcoming friendlies for United States?
You know what? You sent me that, and I completely forgot. Um, I guess that shows my motivation to follow the national team. But no, I didn't see it. Did he include any MLS guys?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Not like a ton, but there's a couple guys in there. Nothing glaring. It's largely unchanged. He's got some guys out injured still. That like Tyler Adams, who will be perpetually injured from now until the end of time. Reyna's not in. I think he's also injured with Dortmund. The one, if any, talking point is that a young man by the name of Zach Steffen was brought back into the squad. Um, so he will be in camp. Which
Colorado Rapids legend Zach Steffen.
that one, but
Yeah.
I think that just shows you where United States is at. And, like growing up, like the one thing that you could hang your hat on was the United States had a very not like a top level, right, but like a very very good goalkeeper. Like Tim Howard was probably the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
Um, Arguably for me, I super loved Brad Friedel. Like I was Friedel camp guy, but it just shows you the state of the goalkeeper room right now. That Turner has like, for me finally shown his true colors. I never understood Turner. I don't know what happened with Stefan, like mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever it was that led to his like sort of falling off. But it'll be interesting to see who plays. I think that the biggest thing about Stefan, at least in the past, I haven't watched any of his MLS stuff, was he's a much better ball playing goalkeeper than Turner ever was. And I'm wondering if that's just, kind of plays into what Pochettino might be thinking there, but we'll have to see. We don't have to spend too much time on it. It's just interesting thought.
City messed with going to City was a mistake for Stefan. I think he either should have stayed in MLS and just been the US goalkeeper while playing well in MLS or gone to a smaller club. The Tim Howard in the old Metro Stars keeper kits, he's like an image that's burned into like my childhood memory. Like he was a badass, and those Metro Star kits were fucking sick too.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. All right, let's do one of our favorite segments here. Uh, Top fives, and this week we went with uh, top five football matches you have ever watched in person or on TV. but you have to have had watched them. There's lots of really, really good games that, admittedly, I never watched the whole game. I've seen a million highlights of the United Bayern 98-99 Champions League final, but I've never watched it from beginning to end. So things like that I did not include, but it's always open interpretation. So
Yeah.
um, let's start with OL or OLI if you have one. I'll let you go first.
So my OLI is the only one that I did from a casual perspective where I did not have a rooting interest. Well, I guess I kind of did, but I didn't necessarily have a rooting interest in the game. So my OLI, and honestly, it was probably the best, like from a tactical standpoint or just excitement standpoint. It's probably should be number one, but just because of my fandom, my OLI is the 2022 World Cup final. Just an
Mhm.
absolute barn burner. Messi finally gets it done while playing the hero. Mbappe just proven why he is taking Messi's spot as the best player in the world. Just phenomenal. I mean, two penalties, but like he I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he earned the last one. Just a
Mhm.
tremendous game between, the past, present, and future of football.
Absolutely. No, it's a great call. It's I'm frankly a little surprised that it's all the way down at your OLI. Um, I'll go quick. My OLI for me was, I mentioned earlier, the Villa Bayern game to me, just because from a perspective as a Villa fan, the last 5 years or so, to see um where this club has come from, uh, to where we are now, playing in the Champions League. We hosted Bayern Munich today, and we didn't just host Bayern Munich. We beat them. Like, and when it, the statistics probably favor Bayern, but honestly, if you watch that game, Villa very much deserved to be there. I think that um, it could be fun if they stay healthy, and we'll have to see how this season goes. It's always a slog, right? But um, it was exciting today. I had just an absolute blast watching it. So that's my OLI.
All right. On to my number five. Again, so it's just based off of fandom at this point. Games I've enjoyed the most as a fan.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and this is a regular season match. Maryland Bobcats versus Club De Leon FC.
Mm.
Maryland won 5-3. Going into the half, it was 3-1 Club De Leon, and the only goal the Bobcats had scored was a 10th minute own goal. But you had goals from De Leon at the 5th minute, 25th minute, 38th minute, and Maryland Bobcats came out from halftime. Darwin Espinal picks up the Infinity Gauntlet and says, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and scores a hat trick, 61st, 67th, and 82nd minute, followed up by a Tyler Gabara goal right, like literally seconds after. Maryland Bobcats go on to win 5-3 against. I like the players, but the owner is a bit of a douche, Club De Leon. So yeah, that's my number five.
Nice. My only sort of nostalgia type one, as far as uh non-professional, if you will, was I remember when I was 11 years old. Um, the school that I went to, our varsity men's program was one of the best teams in the state. Our best player was an All American that year. Super good player. His dad, who had started Vicksburg soccer, like built it from the ground up, built the club as well as the high school program. He was the coach there. Had a long soccer history. He had been when he was much younger, like 60s and 70s. He was part of the Costa Rican national team setup.
Oh shit.
So like very very cool. But they went to state semifinals, and I remember my talked my dad into driving me and another kid that I grew up playing with up to that game. They were playing in Ludington, which is way up by Lake Michigan, far north from where I live. But they were playing a team called Elk Rapids. They ended up losing in that semifinal. And I remember Bobby, who was the really good player, came off the field, and he had recognized us just from being around, because it was a big thing about including the young kids in the program, stuff like that. And Like he's said something to us along the lines of like you guys got to do better. He ended up coaching us, a couple years later, not in high school, but just through club, and then that led to us going uh, when we were in high school to state semifinals, and he came to that game. So it was like a kind of a pivotal moment for like me as a kid, as a player. Like it was something I was like those guys were really fucking good. Like it's weird to say that those guys are my heroes, but when you're 11 and those kids are right there in front of you, like you want to grow up to be them. That was a big one for me, and even though they lost, it was pretty transformative. So that's my number 5.
Nice. The So my number 4 is the 2019 Copa del Rey final. Valencia beats a Messi-led Barcelona 2-1. Goals from Gamiro and the Spanish Rodrigo in the 21st and 33rd minute. And then I had to sit there and watch them hang on for dear life as Messi did his thing. Ended up scoring in the 73rd minute, but it wasn't enough. The last piece of hardware that Valencia has won. They were in a Copa del Rey final, I think, a year or two ago as well, lost to Betis. But just kind of the last great Valencia lineup, guys like Halme at goal and goalkeeper, Daniel Vaz when he was playing at the top of his game, Gabriel, a healthy Jose Luis Gaya, Carlos Soler, the captain Danny Parejo, who just had an absolute masterclass in midfield. Probably one of my last enjoyable times following that club was watching that, and it was kind of it ended up getting Marcelino fired because Peter Lim had told him, we don't care about the Copa del Rey. And he said, well, I'm going to go ahead and win a trophy. And he ended up getting fired for it. So, yeah, that's how Peter Lim does his thing.
Peter Lim's a special sort of owner, I tell you what.
Scumbag.
All right, number 4 for me, 2017 Champions League, I want to say quarterfinals. I should have wrote it down, but it was La Remontada, right? It was the PSG Barcelona game. PSG had won the first leg 4-0 at PSG had won at home 4-0 against Barca. They had to travel to down to Barcelona for the second leg. And that game was absolutely fucking wild because Barcelona was scoring goals in bunches, and then PSG scores late, and then Barca scores even later, and they had to score 2 more because it was still old school away goal rules and stuff like that. So that game, just like as a neutral, was like incredibly satisfying to watch. And I was still like, I still am, but like I was still very much like fuck PSG. Like I hate them all. Like trying to buy it. Like you come into the French league and you're gonna dominate it. That's one thing, but like your only reason for living is to win the Champions League. Them not being able to feel that joy still is huge for me. But that was number 4.
Okay. So my 3 and 2, it was kind of hard to pick between the two. But for number 3, I'm going to go with the 2022-23 season. Brighton and Hove Albion won, Manchester City won. This was the game where Enciso scored the goal of the season for the Premier League, and it was also the goal that we clinched up 6th place and our first European tour. Mm-hmm. So yeah, watching him score that goal and then watching us hang on for dear life against Pep was fun, stressful, but fun. And then the ending was just a giant relief. And I felt so happy for the fans in Brighton. And it was just awesome to see.
No, yeah, for sure. That's a great one. Number 3 for me was the 2010 World Cup final between Netherlands and Spain. I understand it's a 1-0 game in extra time. But as an American growing up, like your American fandom is really only going to take you so far, especially at World Cup time. Like you get to like, hey, how far can they go? But really, you always got like, what's my second team? And for me, it's always been Netherlands. I love L'Orange, and for them to go to the final for the first time, Spain in the final for the first time, but going up against mighty Spain at that point, right? Like they
Yeah.
were right in the thick of just being outstanding. And the Netherlands played so well, it came so close, but it was it wasn't a game that was entertaining because there was a bunch of goals, but there was lots of like just beautiful soccer that happened. There's so much talent on that field. I super enjoyed watching that one. I think about that one a lot. So that was my number 3.
I was in basic training for that game.
Mm-hmm.
The I remember calling home, like I got my it sounded like I'm in jail, but I got my phone call or whatever. I have my little phone card. Called my dad. My brother picks up. He's like, "Hey, we're at this. I can't remember the name of the bar. It was a really nice place. They had good wings, but." He answers the phone. It's super loud. He's like, "Hey, we're watching the World Cup," and I was like, "Oh, okay. Tell Dad I love him. I'll talk to you guys later." And I hear my dad say something about the fucking Dutch or something like that. So I was like, "All right, I'll talk to you guys later."
All right, yeah. Oh gosh,
But
yeah. I wish Mike was on for the fucking Dutch line there, but
that
oh,
was that was a good squad. But yeah, that Spain team was, I mean, legendary, man.
for sure. I didn't even throw him on here as tag-ons or OLIs, but like the Champions League finals between United and Barcelona, there was 2 of them, right? But it was right in the middle, like, and that was when the Spain team was made up of Barca and Real Madrid
Yeah,
players. Um,
and
uh,
David Villa and David
and
Villa.
David Villa. But like those games too were outstanding, and United was like it was my club at the time, but there was Barca was so overwhelming in both those
Yeah,
games. One thing I would like to recognize is that the United didn't in general belong on the field for both those games with Barcelona, except for Wayne Rooney, especially in I think it was the 2010 Champions League final. And he scored a goal. Like he arguably was the second best player on the field that game behind Messi.
yeah,
But yeah, I think about those Spain teams a lot. They changed the way football's played right now.
yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, they were like, everyone always talks about system, and we've mentioned this before. Like the reason that like you could talk about system with those Spanish teams is they all played the same way. Like from those
Mm,
two giant ass clubs, you just had these guys that came in that were pretty much going at each other's throats all La Liga season, and then it was boom, let's go kill
mhm,
people.
for sure.
So my number 2 is as I mentioned earlier on this pod, when I became a fan of Brighton was their promotion season. So April 17th, 2017, I watched it on a illegal Arabic stream. So I recently went back and
Alleged,
watched yeah, allegedly.
allegedly.
Went back and watched it with English commentary, like the extended highlights or whatever, and it was just freaking awesome. Goals from Glenn Murray and Solly March. Powell
Um,
scores for Wigan in the 85th minute, but it doesn't matter. Fans storm the field. Wigan, the pretty much the end of it is Wigan um, thinks they get fouled or whatever, like near on the sideline, but the ball rolls out. The ref calls it out. Ref blows the whistles. Fans storm the field, and it's just the field is full of Albion fans, and you have the Albion,
mhm,
Albion, like that, just going on and on. And everyone's jumping. You can see tears of joy because I mean, like a lot of those guys, like obviously, like when I started following, I didn't necessarily know all the history, but like you go back to late 90s, early 2000s, like that club was going to go away. Like they were going to fold. It was
mhm,
almost over. And to get to see all those people, have that joy, like that shit was awesome. And I knew at that point I was like, man, I'm going to follow these guys no matter what.
for sure. No, I definitely see that. Number 2 for me, I kind of alluded to it here in my little uh sidebar there on the last one, but number 2 for me was the 2008 Champions League final between United and Chelsea. Not a pretty game, but like y- as a United fan at the time, it was it was something like super special for me. They, like I said, I mentioned that I didn't get to watch, because trying to find soccer on cable when you're a kid was almost impossible. But I didn't get to watch the Champions League final in 98, 99. So for United to be there in the final for me was, it was huge. It was also the looming fact that right after after that season, Ronaldo was moving on to Real Madrid, which was, and I'm gonna ask you to bite your tongue because I know how you feel about Ronaldo, but like for for young Jimmy, right? Like he was like the best player that we had of in that time. It very much without understanding the context, it very much felt like fuck Real Madrid. You took Beckham from me, and now you're taking Cristiano from me. Like eat a dick, Real. But like that game for them to win, I remember I watched that game by myself in my apartment because it was a midday game, and nobody cared about soccer, and I couldn't afford to go to the bar anyway. And I remember my neighbor coming up during the PKs and like asking me to quiet down because I was like stomping and running around my apartment and shouting and yeah, and just the cherry on the cake, or if you will, on the ice cream, whatever the expression is John Terry's PK in that game, him slipping for the miss. It was sweet because I hated John Terry so much, but yeah, that 08 final was huge for me.
Nice. Yeah, the Messi effect affecting United was kind of crazy because like that win over them in the Champions League that started that whole ripple thing of like Real Madrid was like, we got a problem, we need something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they brought him over, and then the Liga was just insane after that point.
Yes. Yeah, that was 08. 08 up until what last year is the Messi Ronaldo dominance for Ballon d'Or. So yeah, very much so.
Ruud van Nistelrooy sitting at Real Madrid watching Ronaldo walk in like, oh fuck you again.
Yeah, for sure. No, I didn't hate Real for Ruud. I loved Ruud. Like especially playing FIFA, I loved Ruud. But yeah, I mean, we went through lots of, especially the later years of Alex Ferguson, lots of like strikers that we brought in and just killed with. Right? It was like him, and then there was Carlos Tevez, and then there was Van Persie, and so spoiled for riches at United for sure.
I mean that game you're talking about, right? Was that Tevez, Waza, Ronaldo? Like that was the.
Yeah, I think that was the starting line. I could look it up while you're doing your one, but it doesn't matter. Like Edwin van der Sar for me, Rio Ferdinand, Vidic in center back, Patrice Evra out at left back. We still had Ryan Giggs as a contributing member on that team, which is crazy because he played for fucking ever. Ji-Sung Park.
Ji-Sung Park, the lockdown man himself.
I loved him. He played like such an important role for us, and yeah, man, we still had Scholesy. Oh gosh, yeah, nostalgia for sure.
Yeah. So my number one is I've thought about it. It's the match that's most near and dear to my heart. It's the only one of these that I've seen live, because I was the estrella of the match. I got to take photos on the field at the beginning of the game. I got a scarf autographed by all the players. It is Lokomotiv 3, Sac Republic 0, 2019 Western Conference semifinals. It was Lokomotiv's first season in existence. We made it all the way to the Western Conference finals, but this game was at home against a tough Sac Republic team. Won 3-0, goals from Josue Gomez, who at one point was the all-time leading goal scorer for our team. Sebastian Velasquez, who I don't like to talk about anymore because he's kind of a douchebag. And Sebastian Contreras, our first captain of the team. No, he wasn't captain of the team. I'm sorry. First number 10 for the team. Superstar player for us at the very, very beginning. I am not afraid to admit I cried tears of joy as this match ended, and I realized, oh shit, I love this club, and I'm going to get season tickets. So
What would 2024 Jake go back and tell that young Jake about what his future held as far as his love for El Paso and what it would do to his mental health over the next.
don't get the tattoo on your leg, asshole.
Hey, you know what? As long as you live in El Paso, you'd be like, yeah, El Paso, it's fine, no big deal.
I had some kid like come up to me at indoor like, why'd you get that? They suck. Like, fuck you, dude.
Shut up, you child.
Yeah, you little kid. Where's your parents?
Yeah. Who's responsible for you? Yeah, number one, I don't have to add a whole lot because you already mentioned it, but it's the 2022 World Cup final between France and Argentina. Like without like with being a legit neutral. Um, I play soccer with a guy who owns a bar downtown Kalamazoo called Shakespeare's, and it's it's very much you get drunk at night. They don't have breakfast. They're not open in the mornings. They don't do. It's not a soccer bar. But I play soccer with Ted, who owns it, and a bunch of us, kind of asked him like, hey, what would you say to like staffing it for the final? And he begrudgingly accepted, but it's because him and his staff are very dedicated, but they're full time people, all of them, and they had just worked till 4 a.m. the night before. So for them to open up at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and let us all back in, was outstanding.
You guys all just wait in the parking lot?
no, like, I wasn't there for the 4 a.m. portion. The weekends downtown Kalamazoo. If you're there that late, you were probably 21 or younger because I'm sure you have fake IDs. Ted does a very good job. It's not an indictment of him. It's just it's a college bar like at night. But like in the morning for him to let us in, we had I don't know, probably 50 people there that we all kind of knew. It was like had every TV on. It's a giant place. The beers were flowing and everybody was like locked in. So like it wasn't like everyone came in, we were just all hanging out drinking. Like everyone was like watching the game and like so like the reactions to it, and then for it to be a game of like that level, like of that sort of excitement going back and forth. And I will say 70 minutes of that game probably were a little dry, but like it's a World Cup final, and then for it to have the fireworks and the way it finished were, oh my gosh, it was outstanding. The save that Emi Martinez made on Kolumuani right there at the end of extra time. I mean, we could probably do a top 5 saves list. Spoiler alert, that might be right up near the top. But that game was so much fun to watch. I can't think of a better all around experience I had other than the everything surrounding that game. So number one for me.
Yeah, the Messi goal, or no, the Mbappe goal at 81. I remember screaming, "It's over! It's over! It's over!" And then Messi scores it 108, and I'm screaming, "It's over! It's over! It's over!" And then Mbappe gets his pen at 118, and it goes to PKs. But yeah, like just that whole World Cup, like let's take the location out of it. That was fun, and it was
and the time of year because and this is going to happen again in 2034. They've already said with Saudi Arabia getting the World Cup, it'll be a November, December World Cup again. Like
yeah. I just like that. I spent most of my games watching at like Mexican populated bars, so I got to see a lot of Mexico play, and
awesome.
To stay undercover, I wore the team before Bravos in Juarez. It was Indios. So I wore my Indios t-shirt and be like, hey, yeah, hell yeah. Like, all right, cool.
Oh man. I'm excited for the World Cup coming up. My wife and I talked about it. She without going too far off track here, she switched careers. She's a teacher now, but one of the girls she used to work with was the customer service rep for their Central and Latin American markets, and
Mhm.
she's based out of Monterey, and she lives like walking distance from the stadium or something like that, like or close by, not maybe not walking distance, but she lives close by, and my wife's kept in touch with her. She's like, you guys could absolutely come down and stay here, and we'll go to the game with you if for one of the games in Monterey for the World Cup. So
Do
that's
it.
very much on my bucket list is to go see that, go
Th-
see a game there.
that stadium's fucking incredible. But yeah, that if you got a chance to do it, do it. The what was I gonna say? I think that's it on that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a rant today. I want to kind of lay out for you because I know you've mentioned you had one. So let's close it up with that.
So I'm wearing, for the viewing audience, I'm wearing my Maryland Bobcats kit. Um, this kit was given to me by the president of the club, Jay Saba, just as kind of like a thank you for, I guess, us supporting so heavy. Mike and I met through our fandoms of this club, um, and we've sung its praises multiple times, from top to bottom. Uh, it takes a little bit of an effort to be fan of a third division club that's across the country from me. Albeit in a place I spent a lot of time as a kid, but um, it takes a little bit of effort. Like streaming. Especially with them going to Nisa Plus and stuff like that. It is kind of a pain in the ass to watch these games, but I do it because Jay has, with the help of people like Evan Ramus, who moved on to work at Men in Blazers and stuff like that. They built something really, really special from the ground up. Started off with a lot of guys from UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore campus. A lot of the guys from the club team formed a club called, I believe it was Maryland Elite or something like that. I can't quite remember, but I started following them sort of in the way that I started following Brighton, in which, the minute I started following them, something good happened. In 2019, they won the UPSL fall season tournament, played pretty much 2 games in 3 days, and went on to win. But yeah, just pretty much blowing smoke up their ass at this point. Like, from top to bottom, they've built something really, really special, and they're worthy of my support and somewhat of the effort that it takes to support them. I like all those dudes, and I got to work today, and I got sent in our Bobcast group chat. I got sent a link from Nisa Soccer, a press release talking about how the league, quote, the league regrettably announces Maryland Bobcats FC is ineligible as it is not in compliance with the league nor the U.S. Soccer Federation. I just want to say that I've heard things, and I'm not going to go into detail because I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about and what I'm not allowed to talk about. But I wanted to say it's absolute bullshit. Maryland has dominated this league from the second the season started. They've lost one league match this year. They lost 2-0 at Michigan on May 4th. And then since then it's been all wins or draws. They've just absolutely dominated. And then all that to the side, even if they were a bad club this year, they were the only club in this league that was ready to play and ready to travel and had the finances to travel for every single match. They didn't withdraw from any matches like all these other clubs that are in this league. They were ready to play, ready to go, and most importantly, they paid their players. One of the few teams that was doing that. This decision is just absolutely asinine. And it's just so depressing because guys like Darwin Espinal, Richard Forca, like guys that have, blood, sweat, and tears for the badge, they're just getting cheated. And there's other things I'd like to say, but again, I don't know. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'm just not going to say too much. I just want to say that it's just not fair, and it's depressing. And Jay, if you're listening to this episode, or if anybody from the team listens to this episode, Alex from Old Bay Brigade, Kaylin, Hannah, Anyone involved with that club, thank you for doing what you guys do, especially like the local fan base or whatever. You guys make rooting for the club even more fun. And it just sucks that they're going through this. And it really, really bummed me out to get that news today. And I hope that the club is able to do something and just get away from this shithole of a league. Whether they got to go play amateur for a season and try to find investors to go to USL, or if they have a chance now to do it. I really hope they do it. This club deserves so much better. Like, they're the only ones doing it the right way. They're the only ones doing it in a way that makes you proud to root for that club. And I'm sorry to drag this on for so long. It's just it's a fucking bummer. I wanted to see them lift that trophy so bad because they absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, I mean, I know I poke at you guys a little bit about Nisa in general, and I know that the only reason you guys have ever defended Nisa to me is just because of your love and support for the Bobcats and and what they've built, and so I agree. I hope that they're able to turn that love and support in the season they've built this year with the dominance they've had in Nisa to be able to spin it off into something that is able to take the club forward, right, and not just spinning their wheels. So, yeah, hopefully good news going forward. So that sucks, man.
Yeah, real bummer. But if I trust in anyone, it's Jay Saba to lead them into a new future. Jay's the man, just an absolutely good dude. Like, he let us goobers have so much access to that club. He's told me directly before, because that was one of the things we talked about when we had him on was, we're new to this podcasting thing, and I'm not a professional footballer. I feel really weird saying like, oh, he struggled doing this. Because I wouldn't even touch the field if I was somehow on that team. I wouldn't touch the field. So
for sure.
But he told us straight up. He said, like, you guys are doing a good thing for the club. You guys are talking about the club. If we do something bad, say we did something bad. He's like, the guys, the coach is already telling them pretty much everything they need to hear. And then, if they did something bad, say it. Like, don't be afraid. And then another thing too was, he's called me before, because I've messaged him I DM'd him on Twitter for like a question. I was like, hey, if you want to talk about this, you can. If you don't, whatever. And then, he literally called me and was like, hey, like, you guys are important to me. You don't have to DM me. You can call me. And like, that's just the type of dude he is. He deserves so much better. Maryland Bobcats deserve so much better. So, yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Well, you know what? I hope we'll leave you with this. I hope that outside of what's going on with the Bobcats and Nisa from Premier League side, I hope that Brighton is able to get a win this weekend, go into the international break with a good taste in their mouth. Everyone stays healthy. I always enjoy doing this podcast with you and when Mike's here too, and I look forward to doing it again. I would say as a programming note for all of Jake's mom listening, we'll probably be off next week for the international break, but we'll pick it up again and we'll just keep chugging forward. And we just like talking about soccer. So, Jake's mom, if you have any constructive criticism or comments, please leave them in the YouTube clip below. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yep. Mike, did you hear that? He said he hopes Brighton wins.